I'd like to ask for you to do a favor, if you will, right in the beginning. Will you welcome back to our service Beulah Wright? She has been so sick. Bless your heart, Beulah. Go right ahead.
To be here. Amen. And has so many Christian people praying for you.
Praise God. Praise God. And she had her birthday on Thursday. Beulah is 93 now. And God has watched over her. John David gave me permission to say that. You're in trouble, John, and me too. Then Kathy's birthday's tonight, and we're so glad that they're both back in service with us. We thank God for his blessing. God's good to us, isn't he? What a tremendous baptismal service today. We thank God for those that followed the Lord in the believer's baptism. And then Billy Huddleston was with us this morning and back again tonight. And we're looking forward to what God has for us in this service. Get a songbook. Brother Howard's going to come lead us in congregational singing.
Let's turn to 135. Come and dine, 135. Jesus has a table spread where the saints of God are fed. He invites his chosen people, come and dine. With his manna he doth feed, and supplies our every need. Lord, the sweetness up with Jesus all the time. Come and dine, the Master calleth, come and dine. You may reach at Jesus' table all the time. He who fed the multitude turned the water into wine. To the hungry calleth now, come and dine. The disciples came to land, thus obeying Christ's command. For the Master called them to that come and dine. There they found their hearts desire, bread and fish upon the fire. Blessing satisfied the hungry every time. Come and dine, the Master calleth, come and dine. You may feast at Jesus' table all the time. He who fed the multitude turned the water into wine. To the hungry calleth now, come and dine. Soon the Lamb will take his bride to be ever at his side. All the hosts of heaven will assemble be. Both will be a glorious sight. All the saints in spotless white. And with Jesus they will feast eternally. Come and dine, Master calleth, come and dine. You may feast at Jesus' table all the time. He who fed the multitude turned the water into wine. To the hungry calleth now, come and dine. Soon the Lamb will take his bride to be ever at his side. All the hosts of heaven will assemble be. Oh, it will be a glorious sight. All the saints in spotless white. And with Jesus they will feast eternally. Come and dine, the Master calleth, come and dine. You may feast at Jesus' table all the time. He who fed the multitude turned the water into wine. To the hungry calleth now, come and dine. Amen. Let's turn to 167. Oh, I want to see him. 167. As I journey through the land, singing as I go, boarding souls to Calvary, near the crimson flow. Many arrows pierce my soul, round with me. But my Lord leads me on through reminders sweet. Oh, I want to see him who looked upon his face. Let's turn to 113, and let's sing Blessed Assurance as we come in for prayer and fellowship.
Tonight, we want to remember those that I mentioned this morning in our prayers. Continue to pray for them. Also, Joyce Crace was telling me that Dana Crace will have knee replacement on a week from tomorrow. So be praying for her if you will. And then I ask that you join me in prayer tonight. I'm going to call on our preachers and deacons to gather in. We want to have special prayer with Tara. She's here on the platform, so if some of you could come up with her, and she's having surgery this week. We want to pray for her, that God would be with her through that time, that the Lord will bless her, and she's asked our church to have special prayer for her. And with her blindness, it makes it a lot easier if we would gather around her here to pray than for her to come down off the platform. So gather in, if you will. Let's call upon the Lord and ask God's blessings tonight. I'd like to ask the ushers to come forward, if they will, to receive the tithes and offerings. It's blessings time, because the Lord says when we give, He will open the windows of heaven and pour us out a blessing. If you stand in need of a blessing, I assure you, as you give unto the Lord, God will honor your giving. He always has, He always will. And as we call upon Him tonight, we just pray that He'll take these gifts, and as they go out, He'll use them for His glory. Lives can be changed forever. Ministries like Billy Huddleston's ministry, we're able to support that. And by the way, if you haven't heard about the Revival 2 at Burlington, we've been blessed to help C.T. Townsend and his wife. 102 saved on Friday night alone in that meeting. God is doing great, great things there, sending revival. And we're blessed to be just a small part of all of these great ministries, not only to help people here, but to help ministries like that that's going out, preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that's what makes all the difference. So give as unto the Lord. Justin, will you ask the blessing on the offering? Privileged to receive a double blessing tonight, because Billy Huddleston will not only be preaching for us, but he'll be singing for us also. And I want you to welcome him as he comes to minister to us tonight, Brother Billy Huddleston.
dragged down the path, two rough-hewn beams fashioned together by nails and by straps. The birds hushed their singing, from the crowd only jeers. His muscle and sinew glistened in crimson, his eyes moist with tears. As he lay looking upward, the angels searched his face. They drove in the nails, and the soldiers, they lifted the cross into place. No one really noticed. It made not a sound, so small as it formed that first drop of blood as it fell to the ground. But one drop of blood became a river, with power to wash all sin away. There was a miracle no one could see, the greatest of all he saved just for me. One drop of blood became a river. One drop of blood became a river, with power to wash all sin away. There was a miracle no one could see, the greatest of all, he saved even me. One drop of blood became a river. He healed the sick, gave sight to the blind, but his greatest gift to all of mankind, one drop of blood became a river. One drop of blood became a river. Just one drop of blood. Well, I'm feeling a little bit brave tonight, so I'm going to try a new song. Is that okay? Boy, I hope you feel that way when I'm done. I love what this song says. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound my song shall ever be. I was born in rags of sin, I was blind and could not see, just a poor and lowly beggar with nothing I could give, till he loosed the chains around me and set me free to live. I was stranded in the darkness, in the lowest state was I. Sin had led me to destruction and left me there to die. But then Jesus came and found me, brought me out and set me free. Yes, that sounds like amazing grace to me. Those are good words right there. I'm about to get blessed in here. In a prison cell, I was locked away in chains of great despair. Well, there seemed to be no hope for me till he came and found me there. From a slave and a prisoner to an heir of royalty, it was grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. I was stranded in the darkness, in the lowest state was I. Sin had led me to destruction and left me there to die. But then Jesus came and found me, brought me out and set me free. Yes, that sounds like amazing grace to me. Oh, but then Jesus came and found me, brought me out and set me free. And that sounds like amazing grace to me.
Well, I'll give Brian the track to that and he can sing it the right way. Yeah. Are you glad to be in church tonight? I'll tell you what, I am glad to be here. I told you that this morning, but I have to tell you again because I mean it. There's something about coming to Rubyville. I can't remember how long I've been coming here, but I know it's been at least 13 years. I think probably longer than that, to be honest with you. And I remember how it happened. I was in revival down here at Portsmouth First Church of the Nazarene, and their services were early, 6 o'clock, and, you know, we got done probably 7:15, and I knew you started at 7:30. We had never met, I don't think, I mean, besides Brother Perry and all that. And I came up here and fully expecting a Sunday night crowd, typical Sunday night crowd, because you know no one comes to Sunday night anymore. Hadn't anybody ever told you that? I pulled in and couldn't even find a parking spot. And then I made my way in, and the singing had gone on, and I preached my first sermon that night. Cal called me on up, and I just came up and preached, and you had pity on me, and you've been my friends ever since. And I'm so thankful for that. I sat here this morning, and I looked out, and the place was full. I mean, there was hardly any open seats. If you were here, you know that to be true. It's the way it is week after week, I'm sure. And I remember sitting over there while you were building this. Now, I never claimed to be a prophet, but I told you one day you'd outgrow this building. I didn't expect it to be this quick. This is such a wonderful place. You know, it's worth driving to. If I just lived in Cincinnati, I'd come up every Saturday night just to be with you all. And I've made such good friends here. Friends that feel like family. They don't claim me, but I'll claim them. I don't think there's any better man than your pastor. Don't you love Cal Ray? I know that if something's going on in my life and I needed to, I could call him up and he'd listen to me. And that can be hard sometimes. I even like Brian Bear. Don't you love Brian? He's a good man. And I love all of you. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I was just overwhelmed today at your generosity. You have been my family. And you know, we always say that there's no place like home. And I know that to be true. I spend my life on the road. And I tell you, it seems like I thought, Cal, the older I got, the easier it would get. because I'm just used to being out and all that sort of thing. But I think the older I get, the harder it becomes. I miss my little dogs. No, you don't care about that, but they're my family, and they love me too. So I miss them. I just miss having a place, just being whatever. But I know I'm doing what the Lord would have me to do. I don't want you to misunderstand that. And there's nothing better than that, but I get so homesick sometimes that I just can't wait to get home. 2 weeks I was in Missouri for a camp meeting, and then I came over to Michigan for a camp meeting. I was home in between less than 12 hours just to basically unpack and repack, and got up there, and by the end of the week, I was so homesick and lonely, I couldn't hardly stand it. And I got home, and I had some time home, and then, I come here. This is where I'm going with all this, if you're wondering. There are a number of you who have always said to me, welcome home. And that might seem small to you, but that means something to me. Because I do feel like when I come to Rubyville, I'm at home. I do feel like when I come to Rubyville and eat at the Buckles, I'm at home. I get so full that I can't preach that night, but maybe I can't preach when I'm empty either, but you know. There's no place like home. And I was laying over in my hotel room this afternoon. I was filled up on all that food, and I was laying there thinking about some things that were going through my mind and my heart, things that I would like to say. And all I could keep coming up with is the reason why this is such a wonderful place to be is because you love Jesus. Not all y'all, that's not true. Not all y'all do, but most of you do. I mean, if that offends you, you're probably the one that doesn't love Jesus. You need to come and pray. But I mean, you love Jesus. And there's something about when people that love Jesus get together and love each other, there's just things that happen then. And I know many times preachers or individuals will say where 2 or 3 are gathering, usually it's to make an excuse why no one's there. I've had occasion where it's me and him, that's 2, and he's there, driving down the road. But when you get together like this, man, there are things that happen. And so I think I decided this afternoon, I've always said that I'd not rather be anywhere besides here. But I'm going to say tonight that there's no better place to be than in the presence of Jesus. I think that's what makes this such a special place. There's no better place to be, because when you're in the presence of Jesus, things happen. Lives are changed. And so I was thinking about all these things. I'm going to get on your nerves because I've been thinking about a lot. It's your fault. I went to Sunday school after that preacher went on and on and on. And I listened as people testified, and I watched a small segment I've always enjoyed going to your Sunday school classes, even now that Jeff's teaching it. But where's he at? He's not even here, and I wasted that. You can tell him I said that. But, seeing how they care for each other and talking about situations and circumstances. I mean, you hear stories of healing. You hear stories of peace that comes over people and forgiveness and all those sorts of things. And I realized that's what it means to be in His presence. So I wonder tonight if we could just be friendly and me ask you a question. What do you need from Him tonight? I mean, I believe probably everybody here would say that there's something that's on their heart, something that's on their mind. What is it that's keeping you up at night? What is it that's got you all torn up inside? What is it that keeps you uneasy? What do you need Him to do in your life? Because for the life of me, if we come together like this, And I'm encouraged every time I come here. This is more for me than it is for anybody else. But when we come together like this, if we have something that's going on, why on earth would you leave here the same way that you came? I mean, when Jesus is there, then possibility is there. When Jesus is there, everything you need is there. And there's no better place than to be in the presence of Jesus. And so I began to think about different people who found what they needed in the presence of Jesus. And I'm not going to tell you anything new. These are stories you all know. But I couldn't help to think about in the presence of Jesus is where you find healing. The reason I thought about that is because in Mark chapter 5, don't turn there because we're going to jump to a different, I'm just going to tell you the stories. In Mark chapter 5, you run across a woman that no one else cared about. This is a woman that because of her condition, she was considered a pervert. Because of her condition, it was viewed that God had removed his hand of mercy. And this wasn't something that had just happened recently. 12 years. Have you ever carried a burden 12 years? Some of you have. I carry a burden for a week, and I think the world's about to end. Things don't go my way in a year, and I'm really upset about some things. I'm beginning to wonder what's going on. You tell me about something you've been dealing with for a year, and I get like Job's friends. I'm going to say, well, what in the world are you not doing right in your life? This woman had gone through that. For 12 years, she had done everything that she could in order to find the answer to this hemorrhaging, to this issue of blood that was going on within her body. It wasn't right. It wasn't normal. She had gone to doctor after doctor. You know the story. She had taken every prescription she could possibly take. I would suggest she probably tried even mother remedies, home remedies, all these sorts of things, but nothing she did brought the relief that she needed. And finally, the day came that she was going to have her last doctor visit. Not because she found the answer, but now, when she had this doctor visit, when she made payment, she was going to write out a check. And when she wrote out that check, the last penny from her bank account would be spent. So now you've got to realize this woman is really in a pathetic state. We tend to look at her physical condition and we know that she was financially broke. Even if there were a doctor that came along with a miracle cure or a wonder drug, she could not get it because she couldn't afford payment. So yeah, we know those things, but emotionally, you know this woman was a wreck. You be told you're nobody long enough and you'll start to believe it. You be used by a number of people. You sat for 12 years, every bed this woman sat on was defiled. She didn't have anybody that really cared. In her emotions, I promise you, they would have had to have been. She would have had to have a low self-esteem. She'd have had to thought and wondered, why, God, are you doing? Ever been there? Why do I have to deal with this? I've tried, God. Why do I have to? Oh, spiritually, the religious leadership said, God doesn't love you. This is what she was condensed to do. You might as well, this was her sentence, go over here, sit up on a rock, and wait for the day of your death. And there's where she's at when she hears that Jesus was across town. And you got to remember, there was something about the presence of Jesus that caused her to do what she ought not do. She broke all the rules as she took her petite body across town. When she gets to the place where Jesus is, there's no doubt her heart sinks as she noticed the crowd that's gathered in. The throng is crushing in on Jesus because Jesus is talking to an important man. But it doesn't matter. Jesus is there, and this is her last chance. So she begins to elbow her way through. She begins to edge her way through the crowd. She's knocked back and forth. I see her as she falls to her knees, and now she hears that voice. It's a familiar voice. This is a ruler of the synagogue. Now she knows why the crowd is pressing in. Because Jesus is speaking to Jairus. And now, when she could have turned and read, when she could have thought, you know what, he can punish me, he doesn't, she can't stop. She's got to get to Jesus. So she continues to crawl until she gets within an arm's length. Oh, you got to see it. By the way, do you know you're within an arm's length tonight? You're even closer than that. We watch as she reaches out that frail, trembling hand, and she gets a hold of the hem. You got to see it. She gets a hold of the edge. Just a little bit of his pressure. Gets a hold of his garment. And when she gets a hold of just a little bit of Jesus, I would tonight that somebody here would get a little bit of Jesus. Because all of a sudden, when she gets a hold of him, everything that she had sought for, she found in just a touch. I'm telling you, folks, there is healing in the presence of Jesus. She would testify to that. I wonder tonight, do you need to be healed? I still believe in healing. You can reach out and touch, and he will in turn always touch back. In the presence of Jesus, aren't you thankful? There's healing. And by the way, let me just put this out there before we go on. Many people need more than just physical healing. There is emotional healing. Jesus is better than fluoxetine. He can pull you out of the pit of depression. It's a very real thing. But I'm here to tell you, folks, he's the healer. Somebody needs to hear that. Maybe it's just me, but somebody needs to hear it. In the presence of Jesus, you find healing. But then I realized as well, in the presence of Jesus, you find peace. Oh, the world is longing for peace. People everywhere are longing for peace. And I began to think about, in that same chapter just earlier, there was a man that was out of his mind. He was out of his mind because he had been consumed by evil. I mean, the different evil spirits had taken hold of his body, so much so where he was once maybe a family man. Now his kids were afraid. In fact, the entire community was afraid, because we see that what the community took action. They got rid of the man. They put him out amongst the dead. They put him out there amongst the grave, amongst the tombs. They bound him and shackled him with chains. But he was so filled with this rage, he was so filled with this evil, that he would break those chains and he would live there amongst the tombs. And it was said that his cries would fill the countryside. His cries would echo off of the sides of the mountains, would echo off of those tombs. And the people in the city, they were afraid. They stayed away. It brought fear to their heart. But it's almost as though across the sea, you see that Jesus hears that cry. Because for some reason, seems to be the only reason, in the midst of everything that he's doing there in Galilee, he gets in a boat. It's almost out of the blue, Cal. He gets in a boat and crosses over the lake and goes to the region of the Gadarenes. Why is he going there? Because he hears that man's cry. Aren't you thankful that we have a God who hears our cry? Aren't you thankful that in the darkness, when other people may fear, when other things, he hears, and he is there to comfort, to do what needs to be done. Where everybody else ran from this man, Jesus goes to him. And we see as he's coming, the man makes his way to Jesus and falls before him. Why? Because there's nothing like being in the presence of Jesus. And when all is said and done, the man is restored to his right mind completely. Where all this evil in his life, the legion kept him in turmoil, kept him from anything but peace. When he tore his own body, when he cried the cries, now there he is clothed. And why do I say that? Because in the presence of Jesus, there's peace. Do you understand that? Some of you live anything but peaceful lives. I don't say it because I know where you're living, or I'm certainly not judging you. I just know how people are. I have a family. I am a person, believe it or not. We can put on a facade. We can put on a good front and act like everything's all right and say, hey, I go to Rubyville, closest thing to heaven on earth. Well, you can come to the closest thing to heaven on earth and still have hell going on the inside. We serve a God that in the presence of the Son, in the presence of the Spirit, in the presence of Jesus, he can bring peace. He's not only a healer, he's a peace giver as well. And I wonder tonight, who here needs some peace? I mean, seriously. He can give it to you. In the presence of Jesus, and He's here, folks, you find healing. In the presence of Jesus, you find peace. And listen to this one. In the presence of Jesus, you find forgiveness. Oh, our greatest need is for spiritual healing. Our greatest need is forgiveness to be made right. And He is one who does not judge. He knows exactly where you are. He knows exactly where I am. The things that you share with nobody else, the things that you would never say to anybody, He knows. And He meets you there. Aren't you thankful tonight that we have a God who always comes to us? It's never the other way around. Honey, if He didn't first come after you, you'd never seek after Him. Hey, that's the biblical image, whether you like it or not. If He did not come to us first, we would never go to Him. Well, there's a woman in John 8 who is a woman, you could say, probably of ill repute. She had heard the whispers that people were saying about her because she knew. Even if they weren't saying it, she felt like it was, because the life that she was living was a lie. She had this hidden thing going on. She was an adulteress, you could say. And obviously everybody knew about it because we watched the religious leadership one day. Isn't it great how people who only have religion love to tear down other people and point their fingers at them? Hey, you know I'm telling the truth. Instead of offering the forgiveness with the heart of Jesus, they love to point their fingers because they grab this woman of ill repute, this adulteress, and they bring her to the place where Jesus is. And wherever Jesus is, there's always a crowd. And they go on to say that she was caught in the act of adultery, so we don't know if she was clothed, we don't know if she was covered or whatever it was. All we know is that she was disgraced. Why? Because she was living in open sin. In that moment, what had been hidden was now out in the public. And for some of us, let's just be real. The greatest thing could happen for us is for us to get what's hidden out in the open so we can deal with it. But this wasn't her choice. They brought her to where Jesus is. And they tested Him. And you remember the scene, don't you? Don't you love this, Jesus? They're standing there holding rocks. And Jesus begins to draw in the dirt. Begins to write. And I don't know what He said. A lot of people speculate. I don't know. All I know is that while He's writing and while He's talking, people are dropping their stones. And when all is said and done, Jesus says, "Where are your accusers?" Something along those lines. Where are those that brought you? See, they had left. He goes, if they don't condemn you, neither do I. But He says, go and sin no more. I wonder how good that must have felt to her. Expecting, according to the law, in the place of women, the man wasn't there, or at least, well, he might have been there holding a stone. For Jesus to say, I forgive you. That's basically what He said. I forgive you. Now go and sin. I guess I want you to see. I don't know what you deal with. I don't know what you look at on the computer. I know some of you spend a lot of time on Facebook because you're my friend. Maybe not now. They might unfriend me. But, you know, I don't know what you're involved in. I don't know where you're at. All I know is that in the presence of Jesus, there's forgiveness. Hey, and in the presence of Jesus, you can find the ability to forgive others that have wronged you. I think sometimes that's the greatest need we have. We hold on to these things that people have done. Well, she said this about my banana pudding years ago. Get over it. Your banana pudding isn't that great anyhow. Unless Buckles made it. Well, and anybody else that's ever cooked for me, just forget about that last part. Trying to tell you, folks, in the presence of Jesus, there's forgiveness. In the presence of Jesus, hear this, there's cleansing. There's a work that he can do that can cause the scales of leprosy to fall off. I won't go on and tell you the story, but you know that Jesus touched the untouchable things, the things that were defiled, unclean, and all of a sudden after he touched them, they were cleansed. Why? Because there's cleansing in the presence of Jesus. I wonder tonight, is there something you need to be cleansed of? I'm finding, it's easy to put fingers, some of the things that most Christian people I need to be cleansed of are their bad attitudes. Do they give this look very often? I'm amazed. I mean, I go around different churches every week. And I'm telling you this. Start hanging around with that negative crowd and see if you don't get negative. And some of us need to be cleansed of some of that nonsense. In the presence of Jesus, that can happen. There's cleansing. Oh, I could go on and on, but I do want to throw one more at you. Some of you are looking at me like I've gone on and on. I'm trying. Somebody's life can change tonight. Do you realize that? In the presence of Jesus, there is healing. In the presence of Jesus, there is peace. There is forgiveness. There is cleansing. And in the presence of Jesus, there is direction. Oh, I remember Saul. Everything going his way. He was born into the right family, had sat under the right teachers, had everything going his way, said that he was headed for greatness in the Jewish body, the Sanhedrin, the ruling body of the Jewish people. And you remember the first time you see him, he's standing there at the stoning of Stephen, that early Christian martyr. Now, to be fair, he's not casting the stones. No, he's standing there holding the cloaks, or maybe the cloaks are laying at his feet. As the blood of Stephen splatters upon his sandals, he's got a smile, a grin of approval upon his face. Why? Because everything about this new way, everything about Jesus rubbed against every raw nerve in his body. It's not right. It needs to put an end to. And so we watch him as he gets permission from the higher-ups to go to a particular area and gather everybody who claims to be on the way. And you know that as he's going, he runs into something he wasn't expecting. He runs into the living Christ. He thought he was dead, and now he sees that he's alive. That realization brings him to his knees. Jesus reaches down into his chest, grabs a hold of his heart, turns his heart around 180 degrees, and now even changes his name. Where Saul wanted to end the church, now Paul is planting churches. Where Saul wanted to kill believers, Paul is birthing believers. Jesus had given him a new direction. And if you're wondering what direction to go in life tonight, I'm here to tell you that he will show you, because in the presence of Jesus, direction is giving. It is not, he does not deal in uncertainties. If you have any doubt, don't, because he will tell you yes or no. Well, I'm preaching good. There is direction in the presence of Jesus. You don't have to flounder to and fro. You don't have to be confused about this or that. God is not the author of confusion. The enemy is. And if you live in his presence, there'll be no doubt as to which way. There'll be a voice from behind, from within. It says, this is the way. Don't you see that? Walk ye in it. Oh, there's no place like home. That's because in this home, Jesus is here. And there's no better place to be than in his presence, because you can find healing. I needed this. You can find peace. Do you need that? You can be forgiven. Hey, if you're here tonight and you're living in sin, you can be forgiven. One drop of blood became a river with power to wash all sin away. In fact, sin has been defeated. So why wouldn't you accept the forgiveness that's been offered? In the presence of Jesus, there's forgiveness. There is cleansing. Is there something that you need Him to take care of in your life? There's direction. Oh, He's enough, folks. I used to say He was all, but I think it's more powerful to say He's enough. Because when you've got enough, you've got it all. So what do you need tonight? That's how we started. I'll wrap it up there. Thank you for being patient. What is it in your life that you need Him to do? Are you willing to not tell Him what needs to be done, but to allow Him to do what needs to be done in your life? It would be a shame if we came together like this and left the same that we came. Because in His presence is whatever you need. Will you ask Him tonight? Well, Jesus, saw my heart in a real way. So I believe it was for us. So in these closing moments, give us the determination of these people that we saw in Scripture. Help us to put aside every distraction. Help us to push through all the crowd just to reach out and get a little bit of You, because when we get a little bit of You, it's more than enough. For the one that needs healing, I pray in Jesus' name that You would heal them in the way that You see fit. For the one that needs peace, oh God, how we need peace. Help them to find that peace in Your presence. For the one who's lost, help them to be found. Forgiveness sits right here. For the one who's dealing with hidden sin, help them to be cleansed of that tonight. For the one that's seeking for direction, whisper in their ear the way. And then help us to do our part by responding. Because in that response, we'll be changed. Well, we're going to sing. I invite you to stand to your feet. There's altars here. If you need to come, man, I don't even know why you're waiting for the music. If you need, why don't you just come?
375. Just as I am without